Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Intuitive Interviews. I am Intuitive Coach Kevin, and joining us today is Anneli Eriksson from the beautiful country of Sweden. She's an intuitive horse trainer, and she has been on an amazingly deep journey of contrast that has brought her some amazing clarity this year. And I've asked her to be on the show so that she can share some of the journey and some of the things that she's learned and that she's put into practice as a powerful intuitive, transforming her own life and then by extension helping others in their journeys as well. We're all in this together. So thanks for joining us, Anneli. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for inviting me.
We're going to have fun
Happy
today.
to be here. Yes.
So what I like to do is just I'll ask you to tell a little bit about who you are, maybe how you got to this point, and then we can get into the journey of contrast, which is where all this juicy expansion and all these beautiful tools and techniques that you've developed have come into play and how they have impacted your life. So where would you like to jump in?
Well, as you said, I'm in Sweden. I grew up in Sweden and I live in Sweden. As you can see behind my back, we have snow outside.
Pretty common occurrence.
Fun. Yes, yeah. Like that for Christmas. So my spiritual journey, I would say, started like in the beginning of the 2000s, like a little bit by bit, coming into reading books, spiritual books, and so on. And I think one major shift was when I started to listen to Abraham Hicks.
When was that?
That was in 2014, I would say, almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years.
By a coincidence, I was looking actually for a book by Eckhart Tolle in my bookshelf, and I couldn't find it but it was The Vortex, although in Swedish, just jumped out into my hand. And I read it, and so it was already there. I don't remember when I bought it, but it was already there. And that was really a major shift for me. Mm. And I started to kind of follow Abraham Hicks. I was on a business trip to Chicago, and they happened to have their seminar in Chicago that weekend that I spent in Chicago in 2015. So that was my first live session with them.
It's interesting. Our first live session was in Chicago as well. Back
a few years earlier.
Yeah, a few years earlier, because that's only 5 hours from where we live here in Michigan.
Yeah, right. A little bit more from here.
Yeah.
A little bit longer trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that made me decide to go on a cruise in 2015, the Alaskan cruise that I know that you and Suzanne
we were on as well.
So yeah, and after that I've been to several seminars and other cruises and so on. So yeah, that has gotten like deep under my skin.
Nice. And what do you think the biggest thing was that started to shift for you when you were introduced to that material?
That I create my own reality.
That's a big
There's
one.
nothing to do with anything outside of me. Everything that comes my way is my creation. In one way or another, must not be a consciously made choice. And so it's still my creation.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting point then. So the idea of being deliberate about it, was it that difficult for you at first? Accept that, yes, yeah, because it certainly was for me. Why, I created the mess as well as the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hard thing to accept. And yeah, like I would never create this kind of a mess in my life, but
here it is.
That's what I've done. So yeah, That
So
was the
then,
major point, shifting point.
and so then, how did that expand into your life? Like, tell before we get into that, maybe share just a little bit about what you do with horses, and like, kind of what brought you to what you do now today.
Yeah, I'm a horse trainer and a riding instructor, and I work in a quite a different way than many do. Uh, so this is like classical horse training and handling, horse handling. So it's in a much more intuitive way, I would say, than what I learned before earlier on that in life, earlier in life. Um, so it's very much about really truly soft contacts, physically and mentally, with the horses.
And so you really are connecting to the horses beyond just the words and the physical touch, but you're really getting into the energy of the horse and maybe
Yes.
communicating in some level.
On some level, yes. I'm not. I'm not. Well, I should say that I actually know that I can also communicate with animals. It has happened several times in my life, but that's not what I focus on. Not like getting a story or getting words, more like getting the feeling of the animal, the cat or horse, or yeah. So it's
Yeah.
mainly my own animals, my own family's members.
Excellent. So then as you were moving forward being a horse trainer and so forth, then maybe you want to share about how things started to unfold that led to the experiences of this year. Anything in that you want to share?
Through the horses, you mean? Or
Yeah.
I don't get the question.
Well, clearly there was you were going through a period of expansion, new awareness, and at the same time there were other things that didn't expand. It's like all of us, we get better at some things, more aware, and then but the other things, it's like the gap actually gets bigger for a lot of people. And I think just sharing that with everyone, that when you do this work of expansion, letting go of the old belief systems, that the things that you haven't let go of actually feel worse sometimes. They get worse
Mm-hmm.
because the gap gets wider, as Abraham calls it,
Mm-hmm.
the all hell breaking loose syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
So when did hell break loose for you?
Oh. Um. Um. I can't really remember.
Oh, what a great
I
thinking.
know that I have had that feeling a few times, but I can't really remember what it was that.
Yeah. So again, for those who are listening, one of the beautiful things about doing intense expansion work and moving to new higher frequencies is that literally you become a match to the new. You're creating a new reality, and so the old reality becomes less accessible. And so I love that that was actually a demonstration of that and the importance of not staying attached to the past, which I do
Mm,
sometimes. And then the gap gets too wide and it beats us up and we have contrast. And then finally we let go. As they say, let go or be dragged. You're going to expand. We tend to attach. So wonderful. So then leading up to then whatever it was, some life experiences, some places where you're still hanging on to something, it doesn't matter what it was, then leading into the ultimate diagnosis and then what kicked off this new level of awareness, which is really where we reconnected, where we started our.
exactly.
So what would
Yeah.
you like to share about that?
Well, there is a lot to share for sure. It started this year in February when I was, there is like the routine control, the mammogram control. We x-ray your breasts for possible changes, or how you say that in English. So I got a letter on February 14th, Valentine's Day. I got this letter from the hospital saying, we would like you to come back because we have to do some additional x-rays. And at that point, I felt like, well, sure, I've done that before. And I didn't find anything that was just like not to miss out on anything. So I got back there and they did additional x-rays and other like ultrasound, and they took out pieces of what they found because there was something. And they at that point they didn't know, is it malignant or
benign?
Not.
Yeah.
Benign, thank you. And but it was malign, and it was also on both sides, so it was kind of unusual. And I got that information in the beginning of March.
How did that land with you at the time?
Sorry?
Yeah, how did it land with you? Like how did it take you?
Well, at first, like the first, when I read it, because I had this information actually online, which was maybe not the perfect way, but I could handle it. And at first I was kind of surprised more than shocked, maybe, because I was like, why do they give this information to me? Because I'm fine. I'm not sick. I just feel great. And so this doesn't really synchronize with what I think about me. But it was clearly written that this was malign. And so at first I was like, I wanted to understand everything that was written in this analysis or the information that I got. And so I started to Google all the words, all the stuff that they had put in there, just to try to understand as much as I could. Then I started to kind of consider my situation. And actually a friend of mine, a co-worker or colleague, told me earlier on, because I told them that something is going on and I don't know which results there will be. And he said to me, make sure that you have what you need to take care of whatever it is. Make sure you are good. So that had me thinking, so what is it that I need? So I kind of analyzed kind of what would come after this. And one thing that I was very sure that I did not want to happen was that I would kind of fall into the trap of the diagnosis or prognosis.
Become influenced by it.
Exactly. And to me, it felt like a trap, because it felt like this might sound weird to somebody who's not familiar with the way I was thinking at the time and still think. But for me, it was like a trap to fall into a diagnosis.
And then you believe the diagnosis in that and the negativity around it, and then you create more of it. You actually perpetuate.
Exactly. So I didn't want to get into that trap, and I also did not want to be drawn into, I don't mean this in a bad way, because I really respect other people's reactions, but I didn't want to be drawn into other people's reactions. I wanted to stay with exactly the picture and the perspective that I have on this.
And what was that?
I felt that, okay, I have like 50 trillion cells in my body, and these are like 2 or 3, or I don't know, that's what they told me, but that had gone wild and crazy. They were my cells. They were part of me. Nothing exterior had like been put into my body to create this. This has all been produced by me, because I create my own reality. And I'm pretty aware how this happened right now. So since this is part of my body, I knew that in a way, I knew that I can actually heal this myself. This is not the way that I took, but I know that I could heal it myself because it's produced within me. I can also deal with it. But also I wanted to focus on my 50 trillion healthy cells. I did not want to, because that's very easy when you get a diagnosis, that you focus on the
Problems.
things that are not healthy.
Yeah.
In this case, the tumors. I had a tumor in each one of my breasts. And it's very easily getting that way that you focus only on the tumors, and that becomes your big fear. And that's natural human reaction. I did not feel that way. And I've been very clear with all people, all my friends and family that I have talked to about this, that this is my perspective, this is where I come from, this is the way that I want to stay when I go through this process.
And how did they react
So I
at first?
Well, they were, of course, shocked. And at some in my family was really scared and sad, and they have to be allowed to have their feelings, to have their reaction, to feel what they feel. So I did not want to kind of interact with that, but I was very clear with my standpoint and how I wanted to be within this process. Everybody are allowed to their feelings.
Would you say that that maybe was maybe not the start, but an amplification of your sort of an internal confidence that grew, you weren't pushing against, as you said, but it felt like you were really starting to create clarity and knowing about what you wanted and how you wanted to be.
Yes, I did. And I had no idea about anything like this before, because I have not had this contrast in front of me before. So, but my position in this process also made my friends and family calm, because they could kind of feel where I came from and how I wanted to be myself throughout the whole process, whatever it was going to be, because I didn't know what it was going to be at that point. But they were very adaptive to this.
Nice. So you influenced them back up the emotional scale, as we talk about it, where they wanted to be but didn't know how to get there.
Exactly. And it's kind of, you think that you have to kind of go down that rabbit hole when somebody tells you they have tumors, they have cancer. Cancer is a very loaded word.
Yes.
So people do react. Well, anyway, so that was the things that I was thinking about the first night when I got this information. So I'm going back now to that evening, and I started to think, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? So I don't want to be trapped or dragged into anybody else's ideas about this. Okay, it can be challenging. So I said to myself, I would want a coach, a mentor through this process. And I started to think, who would I pick? And I was like going through, what do I want? Well, I would like somebody who actually is aware of the law of attraction, because I have studied Abraham a lot. And this is kind of how the universe set this up before I even got this diagnosis. Like maybe 10 days before this day, I had a dream, and I dreamt about this guy that I had been following on Facebook for a few years. His name is Kevin Young. I had very few personal interactions with you.
Yeah,
A
peripherally
couple
at
of times,
best.
maybe on Facebook, just like that. But I had this dream that you and I were working on a project together. We were going to help a third person with something. I don't know what. But it was very clear to me when I woke up that I had this dream. And so that memory came back to me when I was kind of searching for in my mind, who would I ask even? And then, oh yeah, I'm going to ask Kevin. He might say no, but I'm going to ask him. Because everything that he writes on his Facebook resonates with me, makes sense to me. So
Big point
yeah,
right there, that you followed your inspiration. And I want to acknowledge the question that you asked yourself at the beginning. What do I need to get through this journey? What kind of support do I need? And that there's so much
yeah,
empowerment in that. And then you let go of the needing to figure it out, and you allowed Source to flood in the answers, which it already knew. We didn't know. Neither one of us had any idea, but Source knew, and you allowed.
exactly, and just gave me that dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was amazing. So yeah, and well, obviously you said yes.
Oh yeah, that was
So
an
that's
easy
how I
one.
got here.
So, in terms of the expansion process, the journey that you went through, are there any highlights? Because we started working together like almost right away. You had gotten the
Yeah.
diagnosis; it was only a few weeks later. And what about the journey? Like, what did you shift? What new awarenesses did you have? What tools did you start to use? Can you kind of go into some of that that's helped you to get here now in this amazing, expansive place that you're at?
Well, one thing is that I actually understood that things don't have to be hard, they can be fun. So the day when I had my surgery, because that was the first step to
That
have
was right away,
surgery.
pretty much, wasn't it? That happened
Yeah, that was
quickly.
in the beginning of April. So a month after the diagnosis, I had the surgery. And so it was actually pretty different experience than you might expect. But we were like throwing jokes at each other, the people working, the nurses and the doctors and I, all the way into the operation room. And we were laughing so hard about all these jokes, so I couldn't even, take these breaths
Yeah, the
to
anesthesia.
start.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it was very easy because I and the team, we were all kind of having this very light conversation, easy conversation, and yeah, it was actually fun.
And how
Weird
did you
thing, but
prepave that experience? What did you do to be in that state as you walked in the door?
well, an important things are, of course, that I never allowed myself to really feel bad. On the contrary, I made sure that I felt good about this and that this would be helpful and that this was just a step on my journey. Yeah, I knew all would be well. This is like almost a year back, so all details are not 100% fresh in my mind, but we did a lot of work together, you and I, before the surgery. And well, I knew even before the first session, the first messages we sent back and forth, that this would be perfect for me. This is exactly what I want. And it really was, and it has been, and it still is. So that was a huge help for me.
And in the
The
process,
support that I
then,
had.
so you had accepted that you felt that our connection would be good, and of course it has unfolded. And because of that, you actually created that unfolding in a more deliberate way by continuing to
Yes,
come back to the knowing that yes, all will be well, all is well. And
exactly.
yeah,
And to never allow myself, well, if I would ever like have a downfall,
yeah,
can
dip,
you say that?
yeah,
A
dip,
dip.
yeah,
I could always just get in touch with you. If I could not fix it myself, I could just get in touch with you. And I was up again. And it's not, I think that is an important thing to say. It's not just trying to hide something that you feel deep inside that would be bad if you wouldn't hide it. Mm-mm. It's genuinely really knowing that all is well.
and that's some of the work that we did together. I'm recalling this now, that it was about sitting with the pain, the emotions that were behind the ultimate creation of this manifestation called cancer, that
Yeah,
that were wanting to be released along the way, so that you could have that clarity and freedom that you created now. And so
true.
yeah, and so I was actually about to say that when you said it. It's such an important thing that people talk about spiritual bypassing, which seems to be mean that, oh, I'll just pretend like everything's good and I'll just only look over here. But
Mm.
if you still have the other stuff going on and it's active, then as you said, that actually can widen the gap and make it worse. And so what you did instead was turn and sit and be present with the negative emotions. I'm remembering this now. We did guided meditations together
Yes,
to soften that, so that the feelings, the energy that was trapped, so to speak, could be felt and then released. And I think you did that a lot. You softened that
yes,
energy, and many times you
yes,
practiced that.
yes, yes, we did. Definitely, yes. And that became a habit.
Yes, right. And that's the other piece of it. You developed the habit to replace the old habits of thought, which had been sort of programmed in from the younger time. And that's,
Mm.
again, another great important point to share with people, that it isn't about one awareness and then life gets good. Right? We have habits of thought, and it does take time and repetition to keep coming
Mm.
back to the light, and letting what wants to come up to come up. And you were one of the most diligent people I've known to put that into practice. And I believe you actually listen back to the meditations as well.
Every time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And they
every
seem
time.
to. Yeah, yeah. And just for those who aren't familiar with the idea of the guided meditation, at least the way I do them, it's I sort of drop into a little channeling state, and I pick up what her inner being is calling for. And then it just basically, I just have soothing words and so forth. But we're co-creating this. It's not Kevin telling Anneli what to do. It's me hearing, from my perspective, words that can help her soften the vibration and re-empower the cells. And then she takes
Mm.
that and then practices it. And
Mm.
then that's the truth of her. The truth is the alignment part. So the truth then becomes bright and clear. And then the old stories, they have no place. And does that sound fairly accurate? What would you like to say?
Absolutely. And that became very clear because of the depth of the meditations and the way that I could um, really like take, it was all mine.
Yes, right. You
It
could
was
tell.
not Kevin's words that I just heard. It was all mine.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of meditations that we did together. That was really, really deep.
You want to share anything about
Um,
ninja cells?
yes, I want. I do want to. Because that was like the next step. Um, after the surgery, everything that they found was taken out. That all the cells that had gone wild and crazy. Actually, one thing that I want to actually share is that what we talked about were like my little friends. Remember the tumors, my
Yeah.
little friends, because they were the ones that made me aware of how I had treated myself for a very long time. Not listening to my body, not just running like crazy, doing everything to get everything to work and to be of service to everybody else, and never really stopping and thinking, oh, hey, what does Anneli need?
Well,
What
that
would be the, yeah.
so right along that path. One of the things that we did, one of my favorite books, we talk about with the health emotional connection, the Louise Hay "You Can Heal Your Life" book, and I suspect she has it right there. Yeah, there you go. Same book. And so in that book, which I use often when I'm working with somebody who has an illness that's prevalent, because as you said, it's just messengers. And breasts represent nourishment and nourishing, therefore nourishing the baby. And when we have illnesses in that particular area of the body, often it means exactly what you said, that you had not been nourishing yourself, your emotional internal needs up to that point. So of course it had to show up there,
Yeah,
because that was part of the messenger, and you heard the message, and you thanked the messenger, is what I think you're saying.
exactly. Exactly. Don't kill the messenger.
Yeah, or there'll be another one.
So actually, yeah, so those cells were taken out, but I was recommended still to do chemo.
Chemotherapy. Yeah.
Yes. And at first I was like, no, I don't want to do that. It didn't feel good when I was like considering that, and it was to be. It was not like it can be in some situations. It can be you do the chemotherapy to reduce the size of tumors or something like that. It's not like that. It was just to kind of ensure or um, reduce the risk for anything to come back.
Well, I want to jump in for a second, because it's an
Sure.
important point again for people who aren't familiar with this kind of journey, that everything is about taking the path of least resistance. And if you want the most optimal experience in this law of attraction based life, and sometimes the path of least resistance is surgery or is a medical treatment. If the vibration hasn't stabilized enough, and if you've got a whole lifetime of trauma, then you're not going to let go in a day or a month. It takes time. So following the path towards surgery while doing the vibrational work is perfect. And if you've been doing vibrational work a long time, let go of a whole bunch of stuff, then sometimes you can let go of an illness just through focus. I just want people to know that, first of all, this isn't medical advice. Right? This is just an experience here. But that whatever the path is in each case that feels like the path of least resistance to get to the next step is the right and best path for the individual. So you did both. You immediately addressed
Yes.
what was underway while working on the vibration, and working on the vibration then facilitated an easier journey as you move through the rest of the steps, is the way I'm reading it.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So I
That's
interrupted you.
perfectly. No, no. Anyway, I didn't feel good about chemotherapy, so at first I resisted, and I actually asked the oncologist, so when do I have to make my decision whether I want to do this or not? And he just stared at me. Decision? What do you mean decision? I was like, I was offered a possibility to do it, but he had a different opinion. So I felt like, okay, maybe I don't feel like actually go against the doctor's advice, but I want to do this in my own way, that it in a way that it feels good for me, is what I mean by that. I don't want to go there, give them my arm and say, okay, go ahead, give me that poison and feel bad about it. Because I'm very sure that for me, that would mean that I cannot take advantage of the treatment in a good way if I feel bad about it, if I resist the treatment.
Right.
So I said to myself, but of course, we discussed this a lot. So I said to myself, either no, reverse. I'm going to work on this. And what I'm going to work on is my feeling around chemo therapies for me personally. So I'm going to work on trying to soften my feelings around this if I succeed, and if I can actually feel that this will be good for me, which the doctor could not actually say, that he didn't know.
Right, of course.
But if I could get that feeling that this is gonna be to my advantage and I can feel good about this, around this, then I'm gonna go. I had 2 weeks before the first treatment. If not, if I feel like, no, I'm not going. So that was really what I was, that was my decision. Either I feel good and I go, or I don't feel good and I just don't go. And I did manage to turn my feelings around to feel that this would be a good thing for me. This is part of my process. This is my path of least resistance, and I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to do it feeling good. That was my very clear position. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to feel good about it. Not pushing anything away, not pushing bad feelings away. And there were bad feelings. My biggest fear was losing my hair. And because I really pushed against losing my hair, that happened. Because I really pushed against that. And you remember, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know it's important.
Yeah. And so anyway, before my first treatment, now we're coming to the anemia cells. Before my first treatment, we again co-created one of these
The guided meditations. Yeah.
And I know, Kevin, that you really got a lot of this. You got a lot of information, like downloads before.
Yeah, your cells were talking to me.
Yes. And we had this really, really deep meditation where a process was started. The creation of a process was started in this meditation. Actually, how my healthy cells, because what you do want when you get chemo is that the potential still, like bad cells, they get the poison. Right. So I didn't even know whether there were any bad cells. I don't know what to call them, but
yeah, the ones who are in the wild party and not cooperative.
Yeah, exactly. The wild and crazy cells. So if there would be any still around, they would get the treatment. But the healthy, I mean, you don't want the healthy cells to be too much affected. That is actually what would be the optimal situation. And normally you do get affected. And that's why you get all these side effects that they actually offer you.
Right.
You get there.
Yeah.
You get like,
here's what you're going to experience.
Yes. And yeah, and that's what they did. But anyway, so this meditation actually showed us how all my healthy cells could protect themselves from the poison the best they could. And it was like a martial arts scenario when they just kind of
They redirect energy that's coming at them,
exactly, the
flow it
energy,
through. Yeah.
exactly. So they just, took it and passed it
Pass it through, pass it on.
through.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, uh, and this was very, very, very strong. And I really took this, like you used to say, Kevin, I took it and ran with it because this was a huge part of the process that I did every time before and during a treatment.
You re-listen to the meditation before the treatment. Yeah.
I listened to it like 4 days or something, 5 days before, every day, every morning normally.
And the treatments were every 2 weeks?
3 weeks, every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks.
Yes. So I re-listened to the meditation, and then I made sure that I had it available offline on my phone, so I could bring it with me. I listened to the meditation during every treatment. And on my way to town, every time before a treatment, when I drove my car into town, I started connecting with my cells. And this is kind of fun because I've never talked to my cells before. It might sound weird, but it was really exciting because I could kind of see, like, I learned also through you, Kevin, that every cell has their own little inner being doing whatever they do to create whatever they are supposed to create. And I could kind of visualize all these cells with their little inner beings doing what they were gonna do. And I connected with them, like I really went through my body bit by bit, from inside and out, and from head to toe, every part, to kind of get them going. We had a party on the way to town.
Mm.
And I could feel them respond. I could feel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you noticed the sensations in your body. You could feel the
Yes.
things coming
Yes.
online. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I listened to the meditation also during the treatments. And I did not experience a lot of side effects. So people say that, oh, this must have been hard, because it normally is hard. Yeah. But it has not been hard. I had some dips after the treatment. Not much. Not much.
And I recall you saying later on in the treatments, when they were getting closer to the end, that you realized that part of this journey, why you were actually in some senses enjoying the chemo, not for the chemicals, but rather the experience of that contrast, creating immense clarity and focus and practices of alignment within you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. These are things that I would never have even considered. Why would I talk to myself? I mean, come on. Yeah. They do their job. I have never even, thought about them before. And this is a huge shift, because this creates for me a connection to my body that I have never had before. And so I'm really thankful for all my cells and how they have kind of joined this process and taken part.
And they are thankful for you now, and you're in full partnership. As we were when we were born, and then we separate because of upbringing and whatever. And now it feels like the partnership is even stronger now, and more resilient and more connective maybe than ever before.
Definitely. And I remember also that I said to you that, chemo is over. How am I gonna keep this communication going? Because I don't have this huge piece of contrast that will kind of
Stimulate that. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you do then? What did you learn?
Well, I must admit that I was more frequently talking to myself cells during the process with the treatments than I am right now. But after the chemo, I had the radiation plan. So I had 5 days of radiation. And at that, when I was lying there waiting for that to start, I was like, wait a minute. How am I gonna, what's the process now? But I realized that I could also in that process talk to myself. I did not have a meditation so that I could visualize this and see this clearly in front of me. But another thing that has come to me through this process, through meditations that we have done and that we have done in your meetings,
in exchange meetings, yeah.
Exactly. I have come to really know that there are other dimensions than the 3D dimension that we are living in here and now. And where I have actually met with spirits that are not longer with us here.
Oh, okay. How does that feel?
It feels, at first it felt like, is this real? But I know that it's real because I can feel those spirits. So actually what I did in the process of the radiation, I got in touch with some specific people and asked for their help to protect body parts that were not supposed to get the radiation.
Right.
My heart and my lungs.
Oh, right.
Because they do get their touch.
Yeah, right.
But I asked for protection.
So what do you think? How do you feel that unfolded then for you?
Well, as I can't compare with anything if I would not have had that assistance or support, it's hard because I don't know how that would have unfolded otherwise. But I've been feeling really good throughout and after the radiation.
So you really didn't have much in the way of side effects, negative?
No.
Well, you had already set so much energy in motion, positive energy in motion, and simultaneously released the vibrational blocks that were causing the cells to dysfunction at the same time. It seems like I was just reminded of Abraham said that when in alignment, there's nothing the body can't deal with. Like there's nothing that the body can't immediately compensate for. And so just thinking about that, it feels like you got to that point when you went through the radiation. And so now your body is so connected that the cells adapt on their own without, this is a point to add to this for those listening, that it isn't about constantly maintaining your body with your own focus. It's about simply letting go of and helping them move through the things that you unintentionally created earlier on that was slowing them down. And then once that's out of the way, as you said, they're the partner. They know what to do. And they just, our job is just to get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly that happened after 3 chemo treatments. I was on my way again to town for the 4th treatment, and I started with thanking all my cells and also myself for the good results or the good work that we had done that far. And then when I wanted to start the process with going through my whole body up and down and so on, I realized that they are doing that like without my inspiration to move. I just felt everything starting. I could even feel myself like cheering when I was thanking them. I could feel them do the wave throughout my body.
Oh,
You know, the
wow.
wave that you
Yeah,
do in
right. At
a
the stadium.
arena.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I could feel that wave through my body, up
Ooh,
and down through my body.
wow. That must have been amazing.
It was amazing. It was really amazing. And then when I wanted to start that process, they were all just already going. They were all online. So I just had to be the cheerleader leader.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing when things work out for us
Yes.
and you put the work in initially.
Yeah.
And so
It
then,
is.
so you've been through that, and that was in the summertime, and now in the fall, as things continue to unfold for you as a result of momentum, not just body, but vibrational momentum, which affects everything in our lives. So
Yes.
what are things you're noticing now that are easier, lighter, working out better for you? Anything you want to share around that?
I would say there are a lot of things that are working out easier for me. When specifically, I would say there are also things that are still that I'm still messing up. So there are still like parts that I can work on, which is nice because it would be boring
Yeah.
otherwise,
What
maybe.
else are you going to do?
Anyway, but it's so much easier for me to climb up the emotional scale. Actually, I don't get very deep dips anymore. And if I get a dip, if I feel like um, a bit off, it's very easy for me to come back up to feel joy and to feel love.
So you're catching it
Uh,
earlier.
I'm catching it so much earlier, and it's so easy to actually just start thinking about something that makes me happy instead of being annoyed of stuff that won't work. So that's a really big thing for me, and to know that I actually went through this process in the way that I wanted to, although I didn't know how what the process would look like in February, March last year. I had no idea what was in front of me, but I have gone through it exactly the way that I intended to.
And you trust it.
And yes, and not only that, but this process and everything around it, and all the hours that you and I have spent chatting and created meditations, and all the other people that I have actually got to know
Yeah.
through this process, through the light work exchange group, for example. It's it's so much bigger than just the process itself, because there
Interesting.
is so much value added to me, to my life, and to the conversations that I can have with you or with other people like that I have gotten to know now.
That's important for people to understand that as they do vibrational work, their environment, including the people, can and will change. And it'll always be for the better, even if we're attached to certain people or situations. If we can let go, which
Yeah.
it's a challenge. I know it was a challenge for a few people in your life, and but not being attached to them and being the center of your own universe from a love support perspective, then some will come as we raise because they are
Yes.
influenced up and they want to go and they're ready to go up. And so
Yes.
those are the most joyous ones for me. But there'll be a few that they simply can't match the vibration. And what a lot of us do is then we'll fall back into sadness or guilt or
Yeah.
something for their journey, and then we just create the problem all over again. And it
Yeah.
feels like that's what part of what you did in this journey here, Anneli, is that those people that had to slide off, away, you let them, and then by doing that, you've opened up to this whole new range of people who are at this new frequency that you've
Mm.
created.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
there's magic in that. There's so much that the world could learn from that, having done that, and the benefits of it, even though it feels like we're losing people or jobs or circumstances. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And in that energy, in that vibration, higher up on the emotional scale, it's so obvious that we actually can create whatever we want.
And how does that feel?
Feels pretty awesome.
And so here you are. You've been through this magnificent journey of deep contrast and deliberate creation, taking back your power, creating new reality. What's possible now, and is there anything specific lighting up for you that's calling you in any specific direction, or is it more go with the flow, or what would you tell people?
Well, definitely go with the flow. That is something that I have, and that means for me to not be attached, to let go of attachment. And that is actually really freeing. Like it was with my hair. I really feared losing my hair. And on the day that I could feel that it started to go off, I called my friend and said, "Hey, you got a trimmer, right?" And he helped me just get it off. And after that, I felt so free.
Ooh.
I felt really free and I felt really good because I didn't have to fear losing my hair anymore.
So you instead of avoiding it by, which is what fear really is, you kind of avoiding it. You again, it's the same process. It sounds like you sort of turned and faced into the fear and embraced it and said, "What would feel best now in
Mm,
this?" And
yeah.
let's just make it. Let's just I'll do it my way is what the story
Yes.
that I keep hearing over and over again. I'm going to do it my way that
Yes.
feels the best to me,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
universe says, "Great, we'll help."
Yes. Exactly. And that was so freeing. So yeah. But also I feel that this process has given me the opportunity to help anyone who wants to do their journey. If there might be in the similar situation, doesn't have to be the same situation, but in a similar situation, um, maybe I can inspire somebody else to actually let go of the fear and do it your way.
Wow, what a powerful statement.
Mm.
And you've already influenced people in our group and us, of course, by your courage and by your choice, making the scary choices, but then standing in your power. And my hope and dream is that this conversation and others that maybe you'll have in the future will start to take on legs, as we say, and reach the people that are calling for it, because lots and lots of people are calling for it. I just had a session, a first session yesterday with somebody who was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I think I can count on
Oh,
less than one hand the number of people in how many years I've been coaching that have had this. And here it's like end to end. And so she's the first person I'm going to send this video to. So there you go. It's starting. Don't have to
yeah,
orchestrate it. It just the universe is doing it. So,
yeah.
any last tips for those who are listening? I mean, there was so much in this conversation about how they can do what you've done in terms of taking the power back and being more deliberate about life.
Well, take a deep breath and find out what you need. Really do try to put everything you know aside. Try to just see yourself here and now. This is me. This is the situation. What is my real feelings about this? If you just take everything else out of the perspective and feel for what you need. And that's everybody's their own individual, have their own individual feelings about whatever it is. But do listen to yourself firsthand, because you know, your body knows. People around you are acting out of compassion or out of they want well for you, but you don't have to listen to them if you feel that it's not your perspective. You can just kindly say thank you for your input and for your, I know you mean well, but this is what I stand for. This is what I want to do. This is me.
Yeah. And then see what happens.
Exactly.
And it gets better when you do it. Yeah. Then you see, oh, it worked.
Yes.
And you do it more.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. What an amazing
Yes, in
gift.
any area.
Yes, in any area.
Because once you, sorry.
No, go ahead. Once
you have gone through a process like this one that I shouldn't say behind me because I'm still in my life. Yeah. But you realize that you can actually apply it on anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're all excited and eager to see what comes next as a result of this process. Yeah. And isn't it wonderful not knowing, because you trust the process?
Exactly. I don't have to know. I didn't have to know during the process either.
Right.
It's just taking the next step and the next step and the next step, but stay in your power.
That's the perfect wrap up for this beautiful gift of a conversation. Stay in your power because you can.
Yes.
You'll find it. And there's, as you said, there's support everywhere as we open up for it. You ask the question at the beginning, what do I need? And then you let go and let the universe bring answers. And you've been doing that. And what a great reminder to all of us that we have universal support. It's everywhere. And so then in terms of your inspiring journey for others, you said people can contact you through Facebook?
Yeah, sure.
That's the best? Okay. So it's Anneli Eriksson, and I'm going to spell it ANNELIERIKSSON. And you can also always reach out to me and I can connect you. I suspect Anneli is going to become more known in our community with because she has so many great gifts and wisdom to share with us. So thanks. And I'll put this link in the description to Anneli's Facebook page. So if you wanted to reach out to her and get more information or connect, we've talked about making the guided meditation for the ninja cells available. I haven't gotten around to it, but if somebody wants it, you can reach out to me and I'll just flip it out and send it. Maybe someday we'll get it up on YouTube. It would help people.
Yeah.
So thanks again for such an incredible conversation, and what an amazing journey you've been on. Thanks for inspiring everybody, Anneli, and look forward to our next conversation in the future.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Kevin, for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Bye for now.
Bye.